Hello guys, so on this video we're going to start with Term 1's work. We'll be revising meta and its classification. So by the end of Term 1, you should be able to state what meta is and how it is classified, identify the three states of meta, state the kinetic molecular theory, explain what an atom is and what it is made of, explain what an isotope is, write the electron configuration, identify positions of elements in the periodic table and know the similarities in chemical properties among different elements. Identify the different types of chemical bonding. So don't worry, by the end of Term 1, you will be able to do all these things. So what is meta and how it is classified? Meta is basically everything on Earth that has mass and takes up space. So you can think of anything, a chair, a desk, a cupboard, anything that has mass and it is able to take up space on Earth is matter. What it is made up of? So it is made up of particles that determine which properties the matter will have and how it reacts with other substances. And then we have materials that are made up of one or more types of matter. So the specific properties of a material depend on its composition and determine the purpose for which we can use it. What are the properties of materials? So we have strength, which is the force that a material can resist before it changes into another form. We have electrical conductivity, which is the extent to which it conducts electricity. That is, if it can conduct electricity. Then we have thermal conductivity, which is the extent to which it conducts heat. That is, if it can conduct heat. Then we have brittleness, which is how easily it breaks. We have malleability or ductility. That is how easily it can be hammered or made into other shapes. Then we have magnetic properties, which is how easily it is attracted by magnets. So you guys do know magnets. They attract things like metals and stuff. And then we have density, which is mass divided by volume, and it measures how close together the particles in a material are packed. And then we have melting and boiling points. That is how much heat has to be applied for the material to change from either solid to liquid, and that is the melting point, or liquid to gas, and that is the boiling point. So bear in mind that for exam purposes, you need to know all these properties of materials. So you need to know what strength is, what electrical conductivity is, what thermal conductivity is, etc. So how do we classify matter? Matter can be classified into mixtures and pure substances. So mixtures can be further classified to homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures. So we will see as we continue what is the difference between these two types of mixtures. Then we have pure substances, which can be further classified to compounds and elements. And we are going to see as we continue as well what is the difference between compounds and elements. Elements can be further classified to metals, metalloids, and nonmetals. So we're going to see how to look for metals, metalloids, and nonmetals in the periodic table. So let's start with mixtures. What is a mixture? A mixture is a combination of two or more substances where there is no chemical bonding or chemical reaction occurring between the substances in the mixture. So in a mixture, there is no chemical bonding whatsoever between the substances that make up that mixture. So those substances in a mixture, they can be mixed in any proportion. They retain their own unique properties, and they can be separated by means of hand sorting, evaporation, filtration, and distillation. So you don't really need to know these methods, but you do need to know that they are used to separate substances in a mixture. So hand sorting is basically just, let's say you have sand and stones, and then you take out the sand, the stones, and then you're left with the sand. So that is hand sorting. Evaporation, you guys do know evaporation, when you boil something or heat something so that the gas can evaporate. You did evaporation in the water cycle even. And then filtration, you basically just use filter paper to separate the substances in a mixture to make them to pure substances. And then distillation, so basically you just boil, you use apparatus, and you have a thermometer there, so you boil your mixture and then you collect it in another apparatus. But you guys don't need really to know that, but just, yeah, you need to know that they are used to separate substances in a mixture. So let's look at homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. We're going to start with homogeneous mixtures. So a homogeneous mixture is where you cannot distinguish between the different substances that make up the mixture. So in a homogeneous mixture, everything just appears the same. So it has the same constant composition throughout the mixture. So examples are your salt or sugar in water. So you know that salt dissolves in water and sugar also dissolves in water. So you can, after mixing salt or sugar with water, you cannot see the sugar granules in the water because they dissolve. And then alcohol in water, maybe you haven't seen that before, or maybe you have, but yeah, trust me, alcohol in water is, yeah, so alcohol does dissolve in water, so it's a form of homogeneous mixture. Then you have carbon dioxide dissolved in water, that is soda water, that is your fizzy drinks. Then the air around us, which is a mixture of gases. So if you think about it, because you cannot look at the atmosphere and say, okay, so I see a hydrogen gas, I see a carbon dioxide gas, I see a nitrogen gas, because yeah, those are just, it's an example of homogeneous mixtures. You cannot distinguish between the different gases in the atmosphere. Then we have metal alloys, which are formed by dissolving one metal into another. So also in metal alloys, you cannot tell that, okay, this is this metal and this is that metal. But bear in mind that they can still be separated. So let us look at heterogeneous mixtures. So in a heterogeneous mixture, you can distinguish between the different substances that make up the mixture. So an example of that is a mixture of sand and water, an emulsion of oil and vinegar, or oil and milk. So an emulsion is just a mixture obtained when one liquid is shaken up with another in which it cannot dissolve. So we know that oil cannot dissolve in vinegar or milk because you can still see the oil and you can still see the vinegar after mixing the two. So basically oil floats in water and vinegar and milk. And then we have a suspension of clay and sand with water. A suspension is just a mixture of solids that are floating in a fluid. So if you mix clay and sand together and then put them in water, you're gonna see that the mixture of clay and sand will just float in water. So you can do this if you know how to get clay, where to get clay. So you can get clay and then mix it with sand and then put the mixture in water and see if you really can still distinguish between the clay, the sand, and the water. So that is it for this video. On the next video, we're going to start by looking at an example of mixtures.